5 days before her 37th birthday, Hayden Panettiere was gone. A woman millions of people grew up watching on television. A Hollywood star who became famous as a child, a mother, a sister, and an actress who had spent years fighting battles most people never saw. On August 16, 2026, Hayden Panettiere was found unresponsive inside a home in South Carolina. Emergency responders rushed to the scene and attempted to revive her, but their efforts were unsuccessful. At just 36 years old, Hayden was pronounced dead, and almost immediately, one question began spreading across the internet. What really happened to Hayden Panettiere? Because the story surrounding her final hours is far more complicated than a simple headline. And there is one important thing we need to make absolutely clear. Her official cause of death has not been finalized. Initial reports mentioned a possible overdose, but that has not been confirmed as the official cause of death. A preliminary autopsy reportedly found no obvious physical injuries that contributed to her death, and authorities have said there is currently no indication of foul play. So what happened? That is the question investigators are still trying to answer. Hayden was found in cardiac arrest, and paramedics performed advanced life support measures in an attempt to save her. But eventually, she was pronounced dead at approximately 2:30 in the afternoon. She was only 36, and perhaps the most heartbreaking detail of all is that her 37th birthday was just 5 days away. Her father, Alan "Skip" Panettiere, later announced the devastating news. For fans, it was almost impossible to process, because Hayden wasn't just another actress. For an entire generation, she was part of their childhood. She was Claire Bennett in Heroes, the cheerleader who became one of the most recognizable characters on television. She starred in Nashville, appeared in Scream, Remember the Titans, and Ice Princess. But behind that successful Hollywood career was a very different story. One filled with addiction, heartbreak, motherhood, grief, and years of trying to rebuild her life. And then came one of the most important details from the police report. Hayden's former partner, Brian Hickerson, was reportedly at the location when she died, and his brother Zach Hickerson was also there. Brian's presence immediately attracted enormous attention because his relationship with Hayden had been surrounded by controversy for years. The two began dating around 2018, and their relationship became an on and off story, with periods of separation followed by reconciliation. But in 2020, their relationship became the center of a domestic violence case, and Brian was later convicted in connection with an assault involving Hayden. Yet despite their troubled history, the two eventually reconnected, and in the months before Hayden's death, reports indicated that they had been spending time together again. Now, Brian was present during the final moments of her life. But this is extremely important. Brian Hickerson has not been accused of causing Hayden's death. Authorities have not announced that he was responsible, and there is currently no official finding connecting him to her death. So while his presence has raised questions online, questions are not proof, and until investigators release more information, anything beyond the confirmed facts remains speculation. But there was another detail that immediately caught people's attention. According to reports, Brian directed officers toward a bag containing medications Hayden had been taking. That detail fueled online speculation about a possible overdose, but once again, medication being present at the scene does not prove that it caused someone's death. Toxicology results are still needed, and those results could take weeks. Only then can investigators determine whether medications, other substances, an interaction between drugs, an underlying medical condition, or something else played a role. So right now, there is no responsible way to say this is what killed Hayden Panettiere, because we simply don't know yet. But perhaps the most heartbreaking part of Hayden's story happened long before August 16th. Hayden had been dealing with personal struggles for years. She entered Hollywood as a child, grew up under the cameras, and eventually became one of television's biggest young stars. But fame came with a price. After the birth of her daughter, Kaya, in 2014, Hayden publicly discussed her struggle with postpartum depression. She also struggled with addiction and eventually sought treatment while trying to rebuild her life. Her daughter became one of the most emotional parts of her story. Kaya eventually lived primarily with her father, former heavyweight boxing champion Vladimir Klitschko. Hayden later spoke openly about how painful that decision had been. She loved her daughter deeply, but she also recognized that during that period of her life, she was not in the position